What if a single canal could transform an entire nation, pulling it from the depths of poverty and instability to a new era of prosperity and hope? Imagine a canal that not only promises to irrigate over 500,000 hectares of barren land, but also offers a lifeline to thousands of struggling farmers and creates 250,000 jobs. This is more than an engineering feat. It's a beacon of hope, shining through decades of conflict, climate challenges, and political upheaval. The significance of this project runs deep, touching on both Afghanistan's history and its national identity. It harkens back to a time when Afghanistan was invaded by the Soviet Union, leaving scars that are still felt today. It's also linked to Mohammed Daoud, Afghanistan's first president after the monarchy fell in 1973. Daoud was known for his progressive policies, including ambitious agricultural initiatives like the Qosh Tepa Canal. One quote attributed to Daoud sheds light on Afghanistan's complex position during the Cold War. "I feel happiest when I light my American cigarettes with Soviet matches." It speaks to the delicate balancing act Afghanistan had to perform during that era. The Qosh Tepa Canal project aims to draw water from the Amu Darya River, also known as the Oxus, which is the longest river in Central Asia. This river is vital for the region's water supply, originating in Afghanistan's Hindu Kush Mountains and forming a significant portion of the country's northern border with Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. Back in the day, Afghanistan struck a deal with the Soviet Union to get about 9 cubic kilometers of water from the Amu Darya each year. That deal is still in place today, but Afghanistan hasn't been able to use a big chunk of that water. In 1977, President Daoud managed to convince the Soviets to lower the minimum water they had to provide to Afghanistan from 9 to 6 cubic kilometers. That was a big win and kicked off the idea for the Qosh Tepa Canal. But then, in 1978, Daoud got assassinated during a coup led by the pro-Soviet People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, PDPA, and everything got thrown off track. Daoud's death led to the Soviet Union invading Afghanistan. By the late 1980s, Afghanistan could only use a tiny fraction of the water it was supposed to get from the Amu Darya. Then, in 1987, the Soviet Union decided to split most of the river's flow between Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan, leaving Afghanistan out of the conversation. Now, fast forward 36 years, and Afghanistan's working on this huge Qosh Tepa Canal project, which costs a whopping $684 million. But Afghanistan's neighbors up north are worried about it. They're concerned that if Afghanistan starts using more water from the Amu Darya, there won't be enough left for them. But the thing is, Afghanistan shares the Amu Darya too, and it's been missing out on using its fair share of the water for a long time. Finishing the canal is a massive job, and it's facing all sorts of challenges like money problems, what the Taliban's up to, politics inside Afghanistan, and its relationships with those northern neighbors. Tajikistan may not be directly affected by the canal project, but it's got some worries about anything that might help the Taliban stay in charge in Afghanistan. See, Tajikistan has strong ties with certain Tajik groups in Afghanistan, and when the Taliban took over in 2021, they even gave shelter to some key opposition figures. Unlike Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, Tajikistan isn't exactly buddy-buddy with the Taliban. Those other two countries have managed to keep things pretty friendly. Now, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan have a lot at stake with this canal project. They rely on water from the Amu Darya River to water millions of hectares of land, especially for growing cotton, which brings in big bucks. But if the canal goes ahead, they could lose up to 15% of their water supply from the river. That's got them seriously worried, especially about what it could mean for their cotton crops. Central Asia's already feeling the heat of climate change. Summers are getting hotter, there's less rain, and the glaciers in the mountains are melting faster. And Afghanistan's in a really tough spot when it comes to dealing with all this. In the past 70 years, the average temperature there has shot up by a scary 1.8 degrees Celsius. That's twice as fast as the global average. According to experts, Afghanistan's one of the top 7 countries most likely to suffer from climate change. And they're already facing droughts, floods, and other natural disasters, with things set to get even hotter in the years to come. According to the Crisis Group, Afghanistan's absence from global talks on climate change is a big problem. Global sanctions and the fact that most countries don't recognize the Taliban government mean Afghanistan isn't at the table for these crucial discussions. And that's a shame because the country really needs to be part of finding solutions to urgent climate issues. The Crisis Group report is pushing for Afghanistan to be included in these talks again. This all ties back to why the canal project is so important. Once it's finished, this canal is expected to bring water to about 550,000 hectares of dry, barren land. That's a lifeline for thousands of Afghan farmers who are struggling with poverty and years of drought. These farmers used to rely on rainwater stored in wells, but those dry up once the rain season's over. And the natural canals that used to carry melted snow from the mountains don't flow anymore by the time spring rolls around. Some farmers use pumps to get groundwater, but those systems aren't great, and they cost a lot of money that these farmers just don't have. The impact of the canal is especially clear in the Kaldar district of Balkh province, where the project begins. This area is full of stories about families living in poverty and doing whatever they can to survive. In lots of villages, you'll see young kids, especially girls, forced to weave carpets for hours on end. It's not just stealing their childhoods, it's putting them at risk of serious lung problems from breathing in dust all day. In northern Afghanistan, a troubling practice has emerged. Mothers have started sedating their infants with locally made drugs like opium so they can weave carpets for long hours. This has led to a widespread addiction problem among young women and girls who are part of the carpet weaving tradition. It's a situation that hits home for many locals whose hope for change is fading fast. So the Qosh Tepa Canal project really is a ray of hope for many Afghans looking to escape the oppression thrust upon them. If it works out, it could rescue thousands of children from jobs like carpet weaving by offering them new opportunities, especially in agriculture. Experts think that industries connected to the canal could hire over 250,000 people in the area. And these changes wouldn't just stop there. They'd have a ripple effect, tackling a whole bunch of other tough issues caused by deep poverty. Things like labor exploitation, drug addiction, forced marriages, child abuse, and the awful prevalence of child marriages could all see improvement. However, getting to this point hasn't been easy. Afghanistan's been plagued by corruption that siphoned off millions of dollars meant for rebuilding the country. Plus, violence is a daily reality. The government started the canal project back in 2021, but by then, things had already spiraled out of control. The effort was too little too late, and when the government collapsed, it was effectively left behind. Since taking control in August 2021, Afghanistan's new leaders wasted no time recognizing the importance of the ambitious Qosh Tepa Canal project. They see it as a way to boost their popularity while silencing critics who accuse them of not being able to tackle issues like hunger and joblessness. The first phase of the canal is already done, costing about $100 million. The whole thing is supposed to be finished in 2 years. The Taliban says they're funding it themselves, using taxes, coal mines, and other local resources. That's earned them respect from many Afghans, but it's also a big challenge. See, the Taliban's not getting any help from other countries because they're not recognized internationally. Plus, they're facing economic sanctions, frozen bank accounts, and natural disasters. And there are worries about the quality of the canal, too. Because they're trying to save money, they didn't line the canal with cement. That could let salty water seep in and ruin the fresh water meant for irrigation. And they're short on skilled workers and good machinery, which could be a big problem in the long run. But despite all these hurdles, the Taliban's keeping people updated on the project through social media. Local reporters and Afghan YouTubers are sharing videos and talking about it, getting everyone excited for what the future might hold. Even though countries downstream might not be thrilled about the Qosh Tepa Canal, there are some clear benefits to working with the Taliban on this. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan have been pushing for cooperation on the Tapi pipeline for ages. With lots of money already poured into it, the Taliban's recent announcement that they'll keep building could finally pay off for those investments. Plus, India, a big player in the pipeline, is looking to shake things up with where they get their energy from. So, if there's a fight over water, it could mess up plans to open up new markets for natural gas in the region. But it's not just about money and energy. The governments around here also want to keep close ties with the Taliban to tackle terrorism. If they start arguing about water, it could mess up those talks. And the Qosh Tepa Canal could have a big impact on all of this. The area where they're building it has been a battleground for the Taliban and other groups like ISKP. There have been a bunch of attacks in Balkh province lately, including the assassination of the governor. So you see, the canal isn't just a standalone project. It's all tied up with the region's history and politics. The new farmland it brings could give the Taliban more control, especially if Pashtun tribes allied with them settle there. If the Central Asian countries try to stop the canal, it could make things even more unstable in the part of Afghanistan closest to their borders. How do you think the project is going to affect the geopolitics of the region? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.